not but fell in love with the deities. They could not but appreciate, fell in love with the deities. There was a particular lady among the participants that went there. He said, I wish I could just stay here. People, can you people leave me here? Let all of you go. I want to stay here. I'm in love with these features I'm seeing. What are they? Can I snap the picture? Please snap me. I want to carry this memory with me for the rest of my life. He has not been to Hare Krishna before. He doesn't even know the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. He said, I'm in love with these features I'm seeing. Please, all of you go. Maybe she was being sarcastic, but then you could see in an emotion. Immediately, he fell in love with the deities. And afterwards, when he got opportunity to hear about what the deities is, what the, Krishna consciousness is, what Krishna Prasadam is, he said, all my life, I have not tasted anything. He said, I've been fed. I was glorifying in the guest house that was made for me, that I've never gone to an event that I'm so much fed like this, that I had so much food and I'm running away from taking. He said, but today I'm expressing. He said, I have not tasted anything close to this in my life. He said, maybe tomorrow I may eat something close to this by the grace of SALIKA, PRABHU, but SALIKA does, but I've never eaten anything so delicious. I don't even know, delicious is very an understatement. And what is the significance of this? Is that the beauty of Krishna is naturally attractive. So how do we know? The sages here, led by Sutta Goswami, who is describing, is able to identify the quality, the symptoms, the bodily hue of Sukadev Goswami. He could say, yes, this bodily features, it resembles that of the Lord. So therefore, one who wants to be in Krishna consciousness, one who wants to practice devotion and service, he must develop the ability to be able to identify a sadhu. And how do one understand something that he doesn't know? It's as simple as ABC, but it is the most complex thing to know. And how do one do this? It requires a level of sincerity. In most of the times, our experiences are determined by the level of the consciousness that we are in. Like Guru Maharaj said several times, when we, each and every one of us, checked the moment we took to Krishna consciousness and think about what was going on in our mind at those times, we will realize that they are the most times that we are internally seeking to see something higher. We are looking for something higher. We're looking for something deep. And at that moment, the connection happened, and Krishna brings his devotee. Krishna brings his book through the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. He brings a devotee to come around us. It is so simple, but it's so complicated that one cannot identify a sadhu easily, because one needs to be a sadhu to see a sadhu. But Lord Krishna is so merciful, and that is why he said, all he needs is the internal meditation. Maharaj Parikshit, he desired to hear from the Supreme Lord, his devotees. And because his inner desire was that potent, after analyzing everything, he was desirous to have that quality of association. And because he desired it, Sukadev Goswami manifested at that scene. And there was a transformation. So if you want to experience transformation that is beyond the ordinary, that is beyond the word of description, then we have to internally desire that which is higher. After all, what brought us into this material world? Lord Krishna told Arjuna, Isha Dvesha Samuteina in the Bhagavad Gita. By the quality of the desire of the living entity and its delusion, he finds himself in this material world. That same quality is what the Jiva Atma needs to go up. And what happens? When the disciple is ready, Krishna naturally will manifest. It is not something complex. The only challenge is that we have no faith in ourselves. In most of the cases, we do not have trust in ourselves. When we develop confidence and trust in ourselves, in our judgment, in our authentic desires, then we'll be able to connect with the authentic desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the miracle will happen like it's happening in the life of Maharaj Parikshit. Sukadev Goswami of our time will manifest in our lives. He has appeared. Because if he hasn't, none of us here would have been here this afternoon, evening, discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. But just like Dhruva Maharaj, after all of the rigorous intent, passion to see what? To see that personality that is called Krishna. The spiritual master manifests before him. It's a tradition. When Vyasadeva was confused, was in a dilemma, he was internally thinking, what could have been happening? What have I done wrong? Because of his genuine internal connection, that the Muni appeared. Dhruva Maharaj was very passionately desiring to see that person. He doesn't know Krishna. He doesn't know who is Krishna. But he was never cheated. That is the beauty. Sometimes we're so scared, we're so afraid that we'll be cheated, that we fail to connect with the authentic quality of the mercy of the Lord. One who is actually going to be successful in devotional service is authentic. Why? Because he sincerely, and because he trusts himself, his trust is inner mind, that he's seeking for that genuine, sincere, authentic thing. The authentic thing manifests and attracts itself to him or her. So Dhruva Maharaj saw Narad Muni. But then Narad Muni, after instructing him, he said, well, I'm not Krishna. First, he tried to dissuade him, go back home. You young boy, you have your father, you go and take care of yourself. He said, no, this is what I want. And he gave him what? He gave him the instructions. And when Dhruva Maharaj eventually met the Lord, he never wanted to leave the association of God. That's what happens to us. Each and every one of us, we want to release, we want to re-experience that moment when we join Krishna consciousness. If we start doing an interactive discussion now, start asking each and every one of us, as we're talking, let each and every one go back to that time when we joined Krishna consciousness. Let us look at that first day, that first moment we connect to Krishna consciousness. How beautiful is that day? It's such a beautiful moment in our lives that it was so powerful that it could transform our lives. And all we needed to do is to renew that day every day. And that is what Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj said, is that we should join Krishna consciousness every day. Because unless we rejoin Krishna consciousness daily, we will not release that moment. And if our inner intent, desires are genuine, what will happen? The authentic, genuine spiritual master will manifest. The reciprocation of what we get is what is going on in our inner mind. Sometimes we say, but then I don't want to be cheated. I don't want to get a bad leader. I don't even want to experience this. But the quality of our meditation will determine. It's not what we say. So here, Sukadev Goswami is manifesting before Maharaj Parikshit at the sages of Naimisaraya because of the level of the quality of his desires. And because the sages, they knew by dint of their piety, by dint of their austerity, by dint of their elevation in knowledge, they were able to see this personality is not an ordinary person. Just like that lady, when he came to the temple for the first time, he said, I don't know what is here, but definitely there is something unique here. I've fallen in love with these things I'm seeing. I don't know what they are. I'm just in love with this. So in the same way, even when we don't know, if we attentive, we're open-minded, we're sincere in our heart, who fall in love with Krishna. And what happens to one who falls in love with Krishna? He will experience the experience of the gopis of Vrindavan. Even in the beginning of devotional life, that's how beautiful this process is like. So Krishna consciousness is so beautiful, and it is something that we can deepen, connect more and more, as much as we are giving ourselves to the process. There is no thing superior to this process. There is so many verses, text in the scriptures that has glorified hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I wasn't supposed to be speaking, but I think I'm speaking so long, so that I needed to give some time to Zadie, Prabhu. Please forgive me. I just developed some kind of craziness these days. The moment I hear Krishna and Krishna Katha, I just go so crazy because maybe because I realize that I'm only having a second chance. And I'm realizing day by day how much time is not on my side, and I need to deepen my connection so that when I eventually quit, I can be able to at least, even if not successful, but at least go near success in this body. Someone asked me a question a few hours ago. He said, I've watched you for a whole 1 week, and I want to ask you one question. From my perception, I could see someone who is suffering. Well, how are you so happy? How are you so happy in this same kind of situation? I said, because I'm not suffering. Because I'm enjoying myself, but on a different level. So we all can enjoy Krishna on a daily, on a second moment, and a pre-moment level. But we need to just connect. And as we connect, we experience a deeper connection in Krishna consciousness. So in order to not to be on Navadua, I would like to stop here so that we can give opportunity for others to also to say something, and so that we can share deeply this beautiful verse. Although it looks so simple, but it's actually deep with a lot of realization. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, His Grace Salika Prabhu, for doing what you just did. It's very amazing to be called on the spot and be able to speak the way you did. Is very amazing. So devotees, if anyone has something to share or say or ask, please, you may do so. I would like to say something later, but I expected devotees to speak or ask questions, share realizations, whatever. Okay, Rasalila, please unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful lecture. It's really enlightening. Me personally, I've noticed that when devotional service is performed, say doing any service in a temple, whether it be washing or cleaning the floor or whatever the service may be, there is a sense of a weight being lifted, as in feeling lighter afterwards. And so that is the potency of devotional service. We chant. Sometimes devotees, we experience like a bit of a slowdown in our progress in devotional service. And it's like, I'm chanting every day. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do every day, but I'm still not advancing. But then the Maha Mantra, the meaning of it is we're asking Krishna for mercy. We're begging Radharani for mercy. However, when that opportunity presents itself, because Srila Prabhupada said, you can see there is an opportunity to serve Krishna everywhere, in any and every situation one may find themselves in. So my question is, how can one develop or reestablish that desire to serve, reestablish that desire of selflessness, in order to taste an ounce of bhakti. It sounds like the Mataji that you were describing, she had the desire to experience Krishna for herself, and her experiences was just that, because perhaps she had that innate desire before. So how can one develop that desire and keep up with it, not as in, okay, I've tasted it this one time and then just stagger around? Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mother Leela. Very beautiful question. And it's coming from a deep thought also. I shared one technique while I was speaking, and maybe I'll add one to it. I'll reiterate the one I shared while I was speaking, and maybe add one to it. And then one way one could do that, according to Srila Gurudev, is that he actually did an exercise with us, and he said, each and every one of us should think back, go back to the time we joined Krishna consciousness first, and try to reconnect back to that moment when we said yes to Krishna. Such a beautiful moment. He said, when we constantly try to relive that moment, then it helps in a way to re-energize, re-inspire, increase our taste for Krishna consciousness. And I've tried this oftentimes, and I think it works very nicely. So we go back and see when we never knew who was a temple president, when we didn't know who was our God brothers, when we don't know anyone. But we just came by reading the books or by hearing the lecture, with the moment when we connect, we said yes to Krishna. If we look back at that moment constantly, always trying to relive that moment, then it helps in a very powerful way to be able to maintain the mood of tasting the mellows, the higher taste of Krishna consciousness. So that's one technique. And now the other technique I will add to that, there are several things that Gurudev has shared with us. And another technique that we can connect to this is that in Krishna consciousness, most often times, what actually checkmate our ability to taste Krishna consciousness in a renewed way is that we often, in the back of our mind, things that we already know Krishna, we already assume that we are a devotee. And when we think that we are already a devotee, it checks our ability to internally cry for Krishna, become desperate for Krishna and Krishna's activities. When we join devotional service newly, one of the things that elevates us, that gradually pushes us forward to where we are today, was our passion to become a Prabhu. Let me use that word. You know, when we joined devotional service, in those early days, you know, sometimes some of us used to think that you're only called a Prabhu when you have actually attained a higher status. We never knew that everyone is supposed to be addressed as a Prabhu. So in those days, because when you join devotional service, you're called a Bhakta, a Bhaktin, Bhaktin Samson, Bhakta Samson, or Bhakta this or Bhakta that. So when somebody is called Prabhu, Prabhu Deva, Prabhu Jaya, you start meditating, oh, when will I become Prabhu Sankirtan? So sometimes when we limit ourselves by consciously or unconsciously thinking, I'm a devotee, I'm well situated, it has a very strong way of reducing our taste, our passion, our maintenance of Krishna consciousness. So the mood, therefore, is what Srila Rupa Goswami says, that one should constantly see him or herself as most unfortunate, and in this mood, one can cry for Krishna. So in other words, one way one can do this is that to constantly think, Krishna, I've not tasted you. I really want to taste that mellows that the acharyas are describing, that sweetness that Radharani is tasting. that sweetness that Srila Prabhupada tasted, that sweetness that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati tasted, that sweetness that Bhaktivinoda Thakur tasted, even while in Grihastha, I want to taste this. So when we start constantly think that there is something to achieve, we're constantly thinking, there is something for me I need to get. I've not gotten this. I've joined this process, but there is something I need to get. And once we constantly remain in this mood that we need something, we're seeking something, we want to achieve something, it has a magical way of keeping us in the mode of that Krishna consciousness. And we just constantly finding ourselves accelerating in devotional service in a very tremendous way, because we find ourselves constantly in that mood of when we're wanting to taste Krishna. And because we're like that, Krishna reciprocates naturally. And then we see that naturally our momentum, our desire, our loving sentiment, Krishna is maintained constantly, and is, most importantly, is always constantly increasing. Hare Krishna. I don't know whether that answers your question, Mother.
Yes, it did. Thank you. I have one more question though, more of an add-on. Is it also?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Is it also safe to say that practicing or even serving in a mood of humility does reestablish that firm conviction in devotional service? Because reason I'm asking is, and I may be wrong, but as a child, I grew up in Ghana, of course, and I remember a pastime being told that one time His Holiness Bhattacharya Maharaj came through, and then he arrived quite late, and no one knew. However, he ended up cleaning the bathrooms of the of the ashram, like the toilet area. He cleaned it, and this is Bhattacharya Swami Maharaj, not the. And so with that, it's pretty astonishing to me and pretty humbling, because sometimes we have devotees who will say, you know, no, I'm not going to do that service, or we tend to be selective in which service that we do. However, he said to do what it is that no one else wants to do, because that's where the mercy is. So is it safe to say that serving in humility also helps in holding the mercy that we receive from Guru and Krishna? Because mercy is one thing, and then the ability to hold the mercy is another. So if you can give a bit insight to that. I'm sorry if I'm going over time, but
yeah,
no, not at all.
No, don't be sorry. It's beautiful. You just brought a very beautiful angle or dimension of perception to this discussion. And what we're trying to say is the same thing you're saying, but you're saying it in a very deeper way for more understanding. Because actually, how can one remain in the mood of a beggar if he is not humble? And that is why it is said, both in the Bhagavad Gita and even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, the first quality you see in somebody that's advancing in spiritual life is a manito, humility. One has to develop humility. And when you look at our chariots, and let's take it from our immediate spiritual masters, Srila Radhanath Swami, Srila Bhakti Swami Maharaj, as you mentioned, and all of our senior Vaishnavas that are existing, that are still with us, one of the things that endeared most devotees to them is that their quality of humility. Bhakti Maharaj, I've witnessed it and I've seen it happen. He will come all the way from the US, and you can imagine how someone would travel. Most of us are traveling now, and we are in the kind of our mid-ages, so we see what it means. He will travel, sometimes connecting flight from 2-3 places, and he will arrive into the country. And right from the time he comes in, he goes into the bedroom to go and clean the toilet, to the bedroom. He goes and do some karma yoga. So when they exhibit this, when you look at Radhanath Swami, it is not artificial. It is the manifestation of their humility. Because this kind of activities, it is not like somebody is calling, Prabhu, come and serve prasadam. No, they just go forward. They want to go do it because it is an internal thing. It is the expression of their state of consciousness. So amanito, or humility, is the first quality that you see in a person who is actually advancing in Krishna consciousness. So yes, you can say that I mean, and it's actually the most important thing, that for one to sustain the mercy that we receive from the chariots, one has to become humble. And that's the same thing I'm saying in another way, that when we think that when we think that we are already there, or we are already on the path, you know, to the Prabhupada, when we release back, when you go back to the memos of Srila Prabhupada in India before he came to the West, Srila Prabhupada, and we add the narration of that sannyasi who was always explaining, he said, this is Srila Prabhupada who wake up 2 a.m., 1:30 a.m. in the morning. And we're talking of Srila Prabhupada in the 1950s, in the 1960s, when he's at the end of his devotional ras with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he was at the end of establishing Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada will cry. He will sweep the Radha Damodar temple at that hour of the day. He will be crying, practically crying. If you do that in my tradition, in the local place, they will think you that to be a kind of a ghost, because there are some kind of a ghost in my tradition that we call them, they're not the ordinary kind of a ghost. They're kind of unusual beings. They have a very small features, and sometimes they could have a very funny bodily features. But they carry. If someone from the Yoruba tradition is here, he will be able to. You'll be able to relate to what I'm saying. Srimad Prabhu is here, so they carry small mats, and they are very kind of a unique kind of a personalities. And how you know that they are present in a place is that in the dead of the night, they will be crying. They'll be crying. And what happens to them? Why do they cry? When you mistakenly carry that their small mat, the whole of the being, some of them are not more than, they're not sometimes even as big as your arm. I'm not talking the whole of the arm, just a arm. They're not as more bigger than that, but they'll be crying very heavily. And the traditionalists, they have a diabolic or mystical way of using their mat. So they try to steal it away from them. But if you take it away, you're in trouble. He will cry and cry every dead of the night, middle of the night, between 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. When that spirit is, he will cry and cry. So if you do that, in my tradition, they will say this person is that kind of a creation. But that is what Prabhupada was doing. And now he's talking about the mode of a pure bhakta. Prabhupada will cry, and it's in that level of tasting of bhakti. It was beautifully. He will carry the broom. He was sweeping. He's sweeping. And he's crying. And that is humility in practice. So yes, you're perfectly right, Mother. That's a beautiful contribution you've just put in. That for us to sustain the mercy we receive from the Acharya, we have to be humble. And it's not just about talking about humble, but acting humility, living humility, sleeping humility, talking humility, eating humility. Only then we can be able to sustain the mercy that we receive from the previous Acharyas. And then we also can be the carrier of the mercy of the Parampara. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you for those questions and sharing of wonderful pastimes of His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. Anyone else with something to share, ask, to say? His Grace Salika Prabhu, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to put the verse on the screen again.
Go ahead.
We'll see here. The translation is describing some of the bodily features of Sri Shukadev. And in the purport, Sri Prabhupada is saying that these bodily features indicate that he is different from common men. Mm. And so for common men, we have certain bodily features which are completely different from great personalities. And so Srila Prabhupada was saying in the purport, it's very amazing how Srila Prabhupada is almost an all-knowing individual. You know, he knew almost everything. Because if we want to discuss physiognomy, it will take us like a whole lifetime to study it. And so Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport that all the signs described in connection with the bodily features of Shikadev Goswami are uncommon symptoms. They are not common. They are uncommon symptoms of an ordinary man. But the bodily features of Shikadev are typical of great personalities. According to who? According to physiognomical calculations. His bodily hue resembled that of Lord Krishna, who is the supreme among the gods, demigods, and all living beings. And so when we see Krishna on the altar, when we look at the photos of Krishna, the paintings of Krishna. In fact, I have one painting of Krishna and Arjuna, which I bought from Canada. We went to Canada once and I bought it from Canada. Very beautiful. But I did not know this then. If I had known, I wouldn't have bought it. Because according to Srila Prabhupada, Krishna has a round face. And in today's world, you see every man wants to have six-pack, they call it. And everybody wants to be muscular. But this particular painting of Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna appears very muscular, more than usual. And so later on I read, and Srila Prabhupada specifically pointed to that painting and said that that is not Krishna. Krishna is not that muscular. And the beings in the higher planets, their body, when one has the opportunity to come in contact with these beings, when you touch them, their body is so supple, it's so soft, it's not as hard. You know, there are some skins when you touch, you can get scratched. No, their skin, excuse me, they are like crocodile skin. No, that is not the skin of these higher beings. And so when we go to the temple room and the altar is open and we're looking at the deities, we have to pay very, very close attention, because if we pay close attention, we may be able to see Krishna responding to us. It's been said, the pujari is a very, very important devotee, because when the pujari serves Krishna nicely and Krishna becomes happy, then because Krishna is happy, the entire ashram flourishes and benefits from Krishna's happiness. But if the pujari is not attending to the deities nicely and properly, Krishna will not feel happy. And when Krishna is unhappy, then the ashram does not feel happy. So there was a time, Bhaktivedanta Maharaj came to our zone in Accra, and he was praying to Srila Prabhupada. He was standing right in front of Srila Prabhupada. He was praying to him. And after he was done with his prayers, he turned and he became so heavy. Srila Prabhupada was talking to him that he was not happy. yes, Sri Prabhupada was saying to Bhaktivedanta Maharaj that he was not happy. Why? Because, and actually, he turned to Prabhu Srivas and he asked him, what's going on? And at the time, we were not doing things very right. I mean, all of us in the temple knew what we were not doing right. No, we were not preaching as we were supposed to preach. We became so much enamored in paraphernalia and like becoming mystics and psychics instead of spiritualists. All our emphasis were on healing, healing, healing. And the pure philosophy, I mean, it wasn't like abandoned, but it was like under the carpet. We didn't pay close attention to that. And even our boga offering to the deities were not up to date. So Sri Prabhupada was unhappy. And after Bhaktivedanta Maharaj had prayed to Sri Prabhupada, he turned and he became heavy all of a sudden and was asking, what's going on? Sri Prabhupada is telling me he's not happy. What's going on? Just as if I'm happy, you can tell from my face. If I'm sad, you can tell from my face. Sometimes some people are able to fake being happy when they are really suffering inside. But they are only able to fake and cheat people because those people do not have the trained eyes to see. And that is why we have a whole science of criminology where people study people. And so when somebody commits a crime, like in the airport, they have these people in the airport across the world. Somebody may hide something illegal, something contraband that he or she should not carry. But facially, he or she is acting like everything is normal. But these trained people, they can tell. And so the scriptures here, the text we read here is describing the bodily features of Shukadev. And it's saying that these features, as soon as the sages saw him and saw the features, they knew that he's not an ordinary person, even though he was naked. And some kids were actually making fun of him because these kids were ignorant. They didn't know any better. So since somebody was naked, they thought he was either a madman or a poor person. You know, that reminds me some time ago when I used to go to school, and when we go on a lunch break, I wasn't eating anything. So one of my instructors was thinking that, oh, this guy is not eating anything every single time we go on break. Maybe he's so poor, you know? That's what she was thinking. But it's not a matter of poverty. Everything served out there is something not fit for devotees to eat. So I never ate from them. Sometimes I will go with my packed lunch, very seldom. But the fact is that we need to be trained. Sometimes when we go to the temple room and we pay very close attention and we look at the deities keenly, if things are running smoothly in that particular ashram, you can see Krishna smiling. Even as immature as we are, Krishna sometimes can help us see that. And so the science of physiognomy tells the color of one's eyes, the size of one's eyes pupils, the size of one's mouth, the thickness of our lips, the structure of our nose, whether the left nostril is more open than the left, whether the left nostril is more open than the right, all tells something. If someone has moles, where it is, where specifically the mole is, tells something about that individual. And so those who study physiognomy and know about this science, sometimes, like myself, because of my knowledge of palmistry, there was a point that I saw something in my palm, and it was bad. And I did not want anybody to see it. And so I was trying to get rid of it from my palm, because in the palm of the hand, there are three basic things. We have a major line or primary lines, we have secondary lines, and then we have tertiary lines. And these tertiary lines, they come, give messages, information, and they disappear. And so there was this tertiary message that appeared in my palm, and it wasn't a pleasant one. I didn't want anyone who knows how to read palm to see it and to know what's going on with me. And so I was trying to get rid of it, but it wouldn't go away until it's time for it to go away. And so even in health, in medicine, we know there are some people we call Down syndrome. It's a condition where these people, the way they think and the way they behave is completely different from normal people. And there is one clear, vivid sign that your child is going to grow up to have this Down syndrome. And that is a line in the palm of the child. And so even in medicine, in health, they believe, sorry, it's not a belief, they know that the lines in our palm are not there for nothing. They tell a lot. And so there is a line, you may check this out later on. It's called simian line, S-I-M-I-A-N, simian line. If someone has this simian line, it's a line that joins the heart or merges the heart and the brain together. And if someone has the heart and the brain merged together, that is somebody you cannot really play around or you play with, because he or she is unable to differentiate when to use the brain and when to use the heart. As normal human beings, we are able to discern when to use the brain and when to use the heart. And so people with this simian line, because they have the head line and the heart line merged together. And so they misbehave. And it is not that they plan to misbehave. They just can't control it. So somebody with such knowledge, once you see that, you know the sort of person in front of you. And so looking at Shukadev Goswami, looking at his curly hair, looking at his blackish complexion, which is like the hue of cloud, rain cloud, just like that of Krishna's, and looking at his limbs, his chest, his collarbone, all tells who this personality is. Well, we are very much blessed, excuse me, that we belong to this organization, nicely and wonderfully created by Srila Prabhupada. But there is so much for us to learn and benefit, both spiritually and materially. Because when one knows this science of physiognomy, then it can better help you relate with people. Because if someone if someone appearing to you as a friend has these physiognomical calculations that clearly tell you that this person is criminal, then you better understand to deal with this person accordingly. For example, there is an indication. Anyone who is a murderer, there is an indication. And if you know this science, no matter how nice, like SALIKA PRABHU was saying, the way you dress, you are addressed accordingly. But that is cheating, because most of us only look at the superficial. Most of us only look at the superficial. So just by seeing somebody in 3 pieces, we address him beautifully. But you never know. Lots of the time, those who are big criminals, they dress up so beautifully. But if one studies the science of physiognomy, you know that even though one may try to cover up the externals, but the internal you cannot. Just as a man may become a woman, but a man becoming a woman will not change his internal system. For example, every man has a V pelvic shape. Our pelvic as men is V-shaped, and that of women is U-shaped. In other words, it is bigger than men. V is kind of narrow, U is more broad. And women, by the design of the intelligent creator, Lord Brahma, made their pelvic bone U so that it will be easier for them to bring forth a baby. And that is why, if one also knows this, when a young girl has not yet given birth, her shape is different. Once she gives birth, her shape changes. And so once you've given birth and your shape has changed, you cannot lie to somebody who knows this science that I have not had a child ever. And so these are very amazing opportunities we can all seize to help ourselves both materially and spiritually, so that we can better help people, help ourselves, and make Krishna consciousness worth living. So, like I said, physiognomy is a very, very broad subject matter that we cannot discuss it in months, in years. So I will stop here. If somebody has something to share, you may do that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Adi, for the sharing. The physiognomy, psychology, and the anatomy of man. Even in science, in modern science, scientific studies, it is shown when somebody is falling sick, or that in modern times, it's very common to find someone who doesn't show any external symptom of sickness. But by the study of the physiology of the person, doctors are able to determine the kind of ailment that person is going through, or whether that person has a prone to a particular kind of an ailment. So the Vedic knowledge is such a deep subject matter that it embodies everything, and sometimes one could get lost in the ocean if care is not taken in the ocean of knowledge of the Vedic scriptures, because the Vedic scriptures are so vast that they give so many interesting things. And the amazing thing is that whatever the scientific or scientific research that is being done today just simply further confirms the truth of the Vedic scriptures.
Yeah, thank you so much, SALIKA PRABHU. Rasivilas, see, Hare Krishna Sahadev Prabhu, kindly help me with the name of the like. I didn't. You mean the line?
The line,
Okay, that okay. I put that in the chat room. It's Simeon line. Simeon line.
Yeah.
SIMIAN line. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Rasvilas is asking, I would love to know if it is possible for someone to be happy inside, but externally expresses unhappiness and vice versa. If that be the case, how possible? Salika, you want to go?
Okay, I can try, then you can also say something.
All right.
Is it possible for someone to be genuinely happy from inside and show sadness, or be sad inside and show happiness externally? Yes, one can fake. Like you rightly said, while you were explaining earlier, someone can try to fake some of these things, but that is much as one does not come in presence of somebody who knows. When someone knows, no matter how expert you are in hiding such emotions inside, it will reflect. And one thing is about it also is that such fake emotions that are not consistent. That is one of the tips those who study emotions use. They want to see the consistencies of your emotion. When you are faking an emotion, whether it is of external happiness or external sadness, if it is not genuinely connected with what is going on inside, it will not be consistent. And I share something with you. I was just traveling recently, and when you're traveling, when you're going through the check table, most of the entries to different countries will not allow you to take liquid and cross. So we were having some discussions when we were going with some few people. So I did something. Apart from my bag, I had a bag. I had some prasadam prepared. So I took 2 bottles of Ragolis bottled water. So I kept it in that paper bag. And then one of the persons that were traveling together, he also carried one. Now he carried one. And he kept it in another similar bag. So he went ahead of me, he put it. And immediately the machine dictated it. They said, no, bring this in. In fact, at that particular place, they wouldn't ask you to go and remove it. They just pick it out and take it out and push his bag to go. But then I followed after him. I put the bag, and then I put the bag containing the water with the things and every other thing. And it passed. And the guy that was screening, sitting on the computer looking, said, okay, pass. The person that was supposed to be double checked physically, because if someone checked by the system and maybe probably missed it or something, or there's another person standing next to him that checks physically. The person even helping me to carry the bag and give me, okay, carry your bag, yeah, go. So when we went, so the guy was saying, what happened? Isn't this same bag that you're carrying water? I said, it's one. I said, no, you have removed the water inside. I said, no, the water is inside. So I brought it out. And he saw this. I said, how did you do this? Hare Krishna, you do mistakes. I said, I didn't do any mistakes. I said, I just wanted to prove something to you. That sometimes securities, they work with your expressions. They work with your emotions. They look at your face intently and they make judgments most of the time than even the physical or external look of what they are looking at. I said, what happened there is that when I got to that guy, I looked straight into his eyes. He was looking at my eyes straightly. And because I locked my eyes in his eyes, And I was strongly looking into his eyes. So he got lost into my eyes and he forgot about, and he passes through me. And then when I got to the other guy, I was greeting him. I intentionally did not try to quickly carry the bag, because naturally when you beat a security, you want to quickly move on. So I intentionally waited for him. He became the person that assisted me even in carrying. So I said, this is what happens. So what I'm trying to say is that in most cases, emotions, when they are not genuine, they are not consistent, it gives out. You can fake an emotion for some time, because you can fake it for all the times. So I don't know whether that answers or gives some light into what you're wanting to hear. So Sadif or any other person can add to it.
Well, thank you, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu. And Rasvilas, thank you for that question. Very important and relevant question. Yes, it is possible, like SALIKA Prabhu was saying. We see in the pastimes of Gauranga Prabhu, Lord Chaitanya, when Lord Chaitanya went on his tour to South India, it was around that time that his wife passed away. And when he came back, his mother, Sachimata, was trying to keep it unknown to him. But again, this same physiognomy we're talking about. Of course, we know Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Lord, but here he is acting and behaving like a human being, like a devotee. He was not acting as a human being, he was acting human-like. Those are two different things, human-like and human being. So he saw that there was something wrong, and he asked his mother, "What's going on, mother? Tell me. You seem not to be feeling happy. Tell me. You know I can do whatever you want me to do for you." But Sachimata wouldn't tell him, because she knows the pains of losing your dear wife. And if they all knew how Lord Chaitanya loved his wife, you know. So eventually, the sad news was made known to him. And the Lord Chaitanya sat down, like he broke down, sobbing. And for a moment, it appeared like what any normal human being would do. If out of the blue, you travel, you come back home, and you are told that your wife has passed away. So even though Lord Chaitanya externally was having these expressions, but internally he was never affected. No, not at all. Not at all. So of course we are not Lord Chaitanya, but we can see these examples. And like I was saying, oftentimes we do it in a very negative way. You know, somebody is smuggling contraband at the airport, but he dresses so beautifully and he puts up a very nice, friendly face that you can hardly tell that this person is up to any evil. Or somebody is going to rob a bank. He puts on a very nice three-piece suit, but he has a gun on him. There was this short clip that was going around in a very viral manner. One guy, he went to the bank And actually, if you go into the bank, like maybe 2, 3 people behind you, when it's time you go, the teller calls you, you go. And so this guy goes, he puts up a very smiling face, and then he asks the banker, a lady, he says, "Do you see the guy behind me?" He said, "Yes." "Okay." He said, "That guy is my buddy. We have gun on us. Take the bag, don't say a word, don't act up, don't misbehave, just stay cool. Give me every money down there." He said it so coolly. And the lady, of course, she's been told that if you misbehave, you're going to be shot. And so with a nice face, and then he kept asking the lady, "Have you been robbed before?" She said, "No." He said, "Good, you're doing good. You're doing good." I mean, they were conversing as if everything was normal, but he was there robbing. And so, yes, some people can put up a very nice face, but internally, they are crying, they are mourning. And sometimes somebody may put up a mourning face, but within, he's happy. I don't know, Rasvilas, like, I'm sure it's common in the entire West Africa. We have these people, we call them professional mourners. When somebody dies, they go there and they mourn, they cry. You see tears. But they are just been trained to mourn. They don't even know the person who passed away, but they will cry their head out. Do you think they're really sad as they cry? No. Within their hearts, they are okay. Probably they're even happy that I'm mourning to make my money because they get paid to mourn. So yes, it's possible. But we should try to be real. We should try to be real. Yes, it's okay, good, thank you. Rasalila, sorry. Rasalila, prayer, please, you may unmute.
Yes.
Rasalila is Govinda's daughter. So those who may not know. Please, go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for the question too, Rasvilas Prabhu.
Yeah.
So the nature is just a comment actually. The nature of the soul is Satchidananda. We're eternally blissful. And because we are eternally blissful, we suffer here trying to kind of substitute for that happiness, which is not here. And so, for instance, if you were to look on YouTube, you would see some lectures by Pratitya Swami during his last days where he was crying while preaching and especially chanting Jayarada Madhava. His tears is not that he's suffering. He's eternally happy. But the suffering or the unhappiness of devotees is due to the miseries being recognized, how much everyone else is suffering in forgetfulness of Krishna. And so, yes, it is possible to eternally be happy, but externally be unhappy. And of course, that is circumstantial. There are some people who are monotone, for lack of a better word, no expression. And there are certain medical conditions that like autism, for instance, there are some autistic people who do not know how to express, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're happy or unhappy internally. However, the soul being eternally blissful, trying to be happy without Krishna only results in misery, which is that external happiness that we can see. So that's what I wanted to kind of add on to what everyone has been saying. It is a tricky question, but it is possible. You see Advaita Acharya when he was praying, crying to Lord Chaitanya, please descend. he's perfect example for what I'm saying. He was crying literally to Tulsi Maharani, to Krishna, please descend. These people are just wasting their lives. They're suffering miserably. And funny thing is, they don't know that they're suffering. And that's the thing. But his crying is a plea for Krishna to descend, to reignite their remembrance of him, to reignite the fact that we are such an eternally happy, eternally blissful, but forgetful of that fact is what causes that external happiness. So that's kind of what I wanted to add on to what everyone has been saying. So I hope that kind of clarifies in addition to everything that everyone has said as well. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much, Raslina.
Thank you. Thank you, Ras. That's a very beautiful contribution.
Anyone with something else to say or share? Shrimabara Prabhu, you have something to share on what has been going on, been discussed so far? Please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shri
Hare
Govinda.
Krishna.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Yeah, my Dandava to wonderful devotees on the platform. And I'm really enjoying the conversation. Salika Prabhu's presentation and the questions and answers coming is so amazing, so enlightening. Yes, the physiology, the palmistry, astrology, and all that is there in our Vedic literatures. Is there for us to study, is there for us to know, but Srila Prabhupada did not put any emphasis on this. And I also understand that, yes, the body is molded based on one's previous activities. And so Brahmachari wanted to get married, and he consulted his guru, and the guru tried to find him or explain to him the nature of women and the bodily features of a woman, the nostrils, the eyes, the hair, the color, the neck. Everything was described. You know, any part of a body of a woman has a meaning. And so if you're going to get married, a woman who will be a widow, as soon as you get married to her, you will die very soon. That is found in the Bhavishya Purana. All the descriptions are there. In fact, if you study this book, you'll be afraid if you're about to marry and you have this knowledge, you'll be afraid to go near any woman. You'll be well selective before you lay hands on anybody, especially those who want to go in for marriage. It's not just, there are women that you can lay hands on and they will make you poor, no matter how rich you are. As soon as you have any, sharing of vibration with them, you'll be locked up with poverty forever, for good. And all these signs are found in the body of a woman. But my question is that, yeah, I know these things are there and they are very effective. They are working. But this apply to devotees, because it is said that when one clap his hand just once, all the sinful activities or the reaction of the past sins are eradicated. Just like clapping your hands under a tree full of bears. All the bears will fly away. So similarly, the devotional activities, when we clap our hand, or we chant our japa, or we eat prasadam, anything at all that we do that has connection to Krishna consciousness changes our karma. So my question is, does this physiology, palmistry, and all that work on devotees? Because we're clapping our hands every day, we're chanting every day. My nose is like this based on my previous karma. So if you want to know me by looking at my nose, you may see the nose is there, but because of what I'm doing now, even though the nose is representing something, but I'm not that person anymore. My eye is there at a particular color of the eye. It represents what I did from the previous life. But because I'm practicing spiritual life now, that karma is changed. And so even though the eye looks the same thing, but it's not representing the same thing as it's supposed to be. So the description of a great personality, as we are talking about today, does it work? Because once you are performing the devotional service, it changes your entire personality.
Perfectly said.
Yes, Salika Prabhu.
Yeah, I thought you wanted to respond to that.
Well, you were speaking. You may respond, and then I may say something. Or you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
All right. Yes, Governor Prabhu, you are right that these things are not much of a concern to devotees. But there is always the word but. We have to ask ourselves, what level of devotee are we? Most of us are Kanishta devotees. And so there are certain things that may still be required. And that is why, even as we speak, in ISKCON now, there is what we call like some sort of a marriage grihastha team, where they are collaborated with astrology to first look at compatibilities before people come together as married couples. It is said that, in fact, it's beautiful. It's amazing how science actually is, because this physiognomy that material people study in Vedic teachings, this physiognomy is there, but it's a bit different from what material people also study. But there is one thing that is common, and that is both the Vedic and material physiognomy both say that the human body is divided into 12 parts, and these 12 parts represent different 12 influential planets. And so the head represents one planet. And then the 11 other planets are all in the different bodily parts of the body. And that is why it is also interesting. We have the Srimad Bhagavatam, which has 12 cantos. And it is said that the 10th canto is actually the face of Krishna. And I think the 11th and the 12th is like the head and then the crown of Krishna. So the cantos are there, but they each represent different bodily aspects of Krishna. And so this physiognomy, astrology, all these subtle sciences, they are subordinate to pure transcendental Krishna consciousness. But because most of us are not there yet, knowing these things could also help us. Just as it is said that the Varnashram system is not required for spirituality, but it is also very essential in society, because by that, society can be slowly and carefully guarded and guided to take to spirituality. So yes, when we clap our hands before the deities, Srila Prabhupada said the lines in our palm, they get changed. So there is this study science called phrenology, which studies the head, just the head, the way our ears are designed, and like you said, they are designed at birth. My nose, the thickness of my lips, my teeth, my tongue, from my eyebrow to the next eyebrow, the length, the gap between my eyes, they all tell something. But I may not be able to change that. But that is not the only thing that tells everything about me. For example, it is said here that Shukadev Goswami was so beautiful. The opposite is his father, Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva wasn't that beautiful. And that is why we have Dhritarashtra, because when Vyasadeva was asked to help impregnate, I don't remember the name, whether it was Amba or Ambika, I don't remember which of the Ambas. She was not willing because of the frightening features of Srila Vyasadeva. And as a result, when she gave birth to her son was blind. And so one may say, oh, Srila Vyasadeva was not such a very handsome man. How can he be very spiritual? No, there are other signs that also tells that this person is this or that. It's not just one size fits all. There are many things that contribute. So yes, real actual devotees do not require these sciences, but because lots of us are not on that level, they are very helpful if we follow the way we are supposed to use them. Because sometimes we try to use them to help ourselves and help others, but we use them the wrong way. And as such, it makes them appear like not really good. And Srila Prabhupada talking about astrology, he says that the misuse of a science does not make the science useless. In other words, if people are misusing the science of astrology, that will not render astrology as a science useless. It's only useless because of how somebody used it. Hare Krishna, Salika Prabhu, if you want to say something. And thank you for the question and the realizations also, Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, I thought Salika Prabhu was going to share something.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sadi Prabhu, for the beautiful sharing. Actually,
you see, Prabhu, before you go, please. Yes, Sadi Prabhu, thank you for the explanation. But I think that this science this science of palmistry, the science of physiology, and I think it's very kind of sensitive when it comes to the part of devotees, because Lord Brahma is a designer of this body, he's the maker of this body. So when Lord Brahma was consulted as to what it means to have different limbs of the body, the meaning of different limbs of the body, Lord Brahma explained. He explained based on what this and that person did from their previous life, and as a result, they deserve this body. That is one. It's just like there are some vehicles. Africa, we are very expert in this. It's a Toyota car. You see, this car is a Toyota. It's designed as a Toyota. But the Toyota engine can be taken out of that Toyota body and put Datsun engine. And the Toyota bodily car would work perfectly with a Datsun body. So if you look at the external features of this vehicle, all you can tell is it's a Toyota. But within the body, that car of a Toyota, the engine that carries that body is a Datsun. And you cannot tell that it's a Datsun because you are only looking at the externals. The foot is made according to that person's previous karma. And once that foot step in a temple room, that foot is completely changed. I remember there's a story of one animal. I can't remember the name. Maybe you guys can help out. And the animal was going through a dead animal. He was just accumulating the dead animal and smelling every part of the body. And so one sage was passing by and saw this animal accumulating the dead animal. It's supposed to be the food of this animal, but he will not eat it. He was just smelling the ears, smelling the eyes, smelling the nostrils, smelling every part of the body, and he refused to eat it. So he was questioned, why are you not eating? He said, yeah, because if I smell the ear of this animal, I can understand that he has never heard the holy name. If I smell the eyes, I can understand that he has never used the eye to see the deity form of the Lord. And if I smell the legs, I can understand that he has never stepped in a temple room or in a holy place. And each part of the body that I smell booger. It's never spiritual. That's why I'm not eating. So a devotee may not be perfect. A devotee may not be on a second class or the highest class. But once he clap his hand, once he step the temple room, once he eat prasadam, once he get involved, even 1 second of hearing the holy name, it changes so many things about the person. So to me, it's very kind of sensitive area when one tries to read a devotee. Next, at the time you are reading that devotee, he may be even chanting Krishna's holy names within. And as he's chanting the holy names within, it's transforming him. So how do you calculate? How do you come to a conclusion that you are this or that when the spiritual activities are still going on internally? And as it's going on, it's changing him. How do you get a frequency and able to get an accurate reading of a devotee.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
You said
Krishna.
so many things, Prabhuji, and it borders on so many topics. And I don't know whether we can exhaust all of them in just one discourse. But then let's take it from where you started from. Is physiology, astronomy, astrology, palmistry, are they important for one who is a devotee? Yes and no. And I'll answer this way. When you look at Srila Prabhupada's life, when Srila Prabhupada appeared on this earth, there was a predictions that explains what Prabhupada was going to be doing. Even Lord Krishna, when he appeared, there were predictions. So they are important to guide in the journey of this complex world called life. But because in Kali Yuga, there are no qualified persons, so it is discouraged. Meditation is very good process for attaining realization, but it is highly discouraged. Why? Because you hardly can find anyone who can do meditation in this age. So Prabhupada will often say those who are teaching meditation are actually cheaters. So all of these are important. I'll give you a very practical example. Let me give you about my life. And I was remembering something about my grandfather, but let me talk about my personal life. On my palm, somebody read my palm at some time, and he gave certain predictions. And when I did my life horoscope some years back, 2-3 decades ago, there was a prediction that when I'm about getting to, or when I'm marking 50th birthday, I might fall into a very strange sickness, which will become the end of my existence. But if somehow or the other I process that situation, I'll live for a very long time. And I wasn't thinking about it. Because as a devotee, we don't focus on all of those things. But in any case, it happened. All my life, I'd never been admitted into an hospital. But at that time, something strange happened, a disease that cannot be even as of tomorrow. Nobody could tell. I don't want to go into the details. But I physically died. But somehow I came back. It was after the whole of that drama, when I was being told the experience I went through, that I was able to recollect that, oh, this was said to be going to be happening. So does it mean that it is real or not real? Does it mean that because I'm a devotee, it will not happen or it will happen? So these things are natural things that are accompanying the living entities, giving an indicator to its experience or life situation. Just like Prabhupada was saying, that at age 70, he will cross the 7 seas. At age 69, Prabhupada crossed the 7 seas. So these things are indicators, but they are not the goal. And because in Kali Yuga, an average Kali Yuga person is very, very lazy. They're looking for an easy route. So it is discouraged to a greater extent. Srila Prabhupada did everything to discourage devotees whenever this matter is brought up, because it could serve as a distraction. Just as much as Jesus Christ in the Bible also says, woe unto this generation, for they cannot believe unless they see signs and wonders. But you see that today, A good pastor is known. A good church is known by how many miracles it does. So therefore, people go to all kinds of means to develop ability to make miracles, even if they have to go and use unorthodox or unapproved means to just do some abracadabra. So these things are good. And in the Vedic traditions, these are the things like Vyasadeva did that he gave in the Vedic scriptures, that it became despondent, it became discouraged, it became dissatisfied. So they are good. Do we say that Vyasadeva doesn't know what is right or what is not right? He knows these things are necessary, they are important, they are good, a guide for the soul who has taken this material body. But because the tendency is very high for the living entity, so the acharyas, they discourage it. But that does not mean that when one knows it, it is useless. So one has to check his own position, just like Sadi Prabhu says, and be able to relate with it as much as it is required. So much so that it doesn't distract one in the part of devotional service, at the same time helps one to grow in the part of devotional service. And when we talked about the other points that you're talking about, generally devotional service is about individual consciousness. Wherever we are in Krishna consciousness determines our experience in Krishna. Our internal level of meditation, reflections determine how we assess things, how we perceive things, how we relate to things, how we act upon things. And that also in turns determines how we practice devotion and service. So there is nothing that is useless or uncompromisable in the part of devotional service. It all depends on the level of one's Krishna consciousness. I give a practical example. If someone says that austerity is very important in devotional service, yes, but devotional service is not dependent on austerity. Does that now say that I don't have to perform any austerity because devotional service is not dependent on austerity? No. Support Divyam. Rishabhadev, he told his 100 children, you have to perform the austerity. It is required for you to grow, for you to acquire the knowledge, for you to be able to advance in Krishna consciousness. If the austerity was not necessary, why do we abstain from fish, meat? Why do we follow the 4 regulative principles? Why do we have to wake up? I can decide to wake up by 10 o'clock in the morning and chant Hare Krishna. The goal is to chant Hare Krishna. But I have to take the austerity to wake up, even that time when I'm feeling so sleepy. So rules and regulations, or the tenet of the Vedic scriptures, are as much as good as they help us to advance the cause of devotional service. And they are as less as important as they distract us in the part of attaining the goal of devotional service. So it is, one has to individually, there is no one straight jacket answer to it. One has to know where he is, then know how to apply this or that, in as much as it accelerates one devotional service. And that is why another example Srila Prabhupada will give, and I round up on this, what is considered to be eating too much or eating less in devotional service. I have one god brother, in those days, he would eat everything to the extent that he will eat whatever remnant all of the devotees had. He will not be satisfied with that. He will go to the dustbin. I'm not talking of stories of 500 years ago, Sanatana Goswami. I'm talking of 3 decades ago, 2 decades ago. A god brother of mine. It's not somebody I don't know or somebody I had to. We live together in the same ashram. He will go to the dustbin and eat. Now he's no longer living in the ashram. He's living, but this person is still in devotional service. It's one of those devotees who grew up together in devotional service. I don't want to mention his name. If you look at this devotee externally, you would think he has a mental, psychological problem. But the fact is that he has remained in devotional service. Even when he has taken to a different aspect of life in devotional service, in the ashram and all of that, but he still remains a devotee. So the point here is that whatever is available to us in the scriptures, there is no straight jacket rules that say this is what one must do. If one by start using astrology or palmistry to guide himself, to be able to enhance his devotional service in such a manner that it doesn't become a distraction, then it is beautiful, it is wonderful. But the tendency in Kali you guys that we want to take the easy route, we want to take the easy path. So therefore we leave the incense and we lose it all. So that is why it's most often times discouraged in the part of devotional service. And like I said, you said so many beautiful things, but for the sake of time, maybe I'll stop here.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Salika Prabhu. And
thank you, Salika Prabhu. Thank you very, very much. You see, I believe in the palmistry. I believe in all this science. I believe, and I know some of it. You know, I don't say they are not good. From the point you are explaining. Yeah, no, I'm not saying they are not good. They are good. But my question was, can this thing act on devotees? That is the question. Can they act on devotees? And you know, that you see, Sandipani Muni studied Krishna's astrology, and Sanjaya was able to foresee or foresaw what was going on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and able to narrate it to Dhritarashtra. So some of these astrologists, numerologists, and these personalities, some of them have actually developed the mystical abilities. The signs are there, but they go beyond science to be able to see the person sitting before him. So they don't depend only on the science. So when we are speaking on this subject matters, it sounds very physical. Some are very physical, but people study it and also go beyond. And so they look at the science, but they can also go within and to connect with the person, even in his past life, and tell the person what is before him, what is about to happen to him, and all that. And so, yeah, I'm not saying they are not good, but my question was, can this then influence devotees' life? Because I know devotional service changes everything.
Yeah,
the person may not be that much advanced, but once he's performing the devotional service, it's never the same person.
Thank you. Yes, the answer is yes. But a devotee, there's a difference between life, destiny, or influences of past life, karma, affect day-to-day life of a devotee. And a devotee depending on the information of past karma or destiny to practice devotional service. I'll repeat that again. There is a difference between the influence of past karma or destiny influencing a devotee's life and the devotee depending on the karma or information of past life to wanting to practice devotional service. And I give a practical example. Like let's use Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was told by this sage, he will experience this, and so many other things Srila Prabhupada was told about. And Prabhupada didn't, all of those things happened in Srila Prabhupada's life, even though Prabhupada was a pure devotee, Mahabhagavad. But at that time, what is said in the astrological calculation of Prabhupada happened. So it does that is to explain to us that it is not that they don't happen. Krishna chooses what he wants to and what he doesn't want to happen in a devotee's life. And that is why he said that my devotees are under my divine energy. That's what he told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Those of who are my devotees, they are under my divine energy. So the Krishna chooses what he wants to come to pass, what shouldn't come to pass, based on the level of the devotees surrender to him. So, but a devotee does not depend on those things that are said and then use them as a guide to practice devotional service. A devotee focuses on his practice, on his surrender to Krishna, and he leaves destiny, karma, or astrological calculations to Krishna to take care of. And that is what it means to surrender. That is why Krishna says, Sarva Dharma Paritya Mamikam Saranam Vraja, because these are also form of religious inclinations. And that is what Krishna says, Sarva Dharma, surrender them, don't worry about them. Master, just leave them to me. I will take care. So Krishna determines what is necessary, what is not necessary in the life of one who has surrendered to him. So our main business should be how much are we surrendering to Krishna? And that determines how much our past karma, our destiny, our life's predictions will influence in our life or not influence in our lives. Someone who is, like I said, in my own life, if by natural calculation, when you check, I was supposed to be over a decade gone. But I'm here, I'm talking to you. So Krishna did something in between that. In fact, medically was satisfied dead. And then somehow the other, Krishna did something and I'm here talking with you. So it is Krishna's desire. He desires, depending on the level of that devotee's surrender to him, what he wants to manifest, what he doesn't want to manifest. If Krishna wants, he can allow your, because it is a natural thing, it's a natural card that will come along with our credit card. Our credit card shows us, just a second, sorry. So in other words, so our own primary duty is to try to surrender to Krishna. We shouldn't worry about what is in the karma because they are there. We can't change them. They are already written. It's what they have done in the past. So surrender to Krishna means to forget about it. Don't allow it to influence what we think, how we engage in our devotional service. And Krishna will decide what is necessary, what is not necessary. And then he will allow what he wants to manifest and what he doesn't want to manifest. And to the degree we are surrender or not surrender, those things will play out. Because if we don't do that level of surrender to Krishna, what will naturally happen is that material nature will take its course, whether we like it or not, whether we know it, we don't know it. But if we surrender to Krishna, there could be an alternate. To the degree of our surrender, Krishna will alternate our karma, our destiny, or what is written in our horoscope. It will alternate it according to what it's required for us to accelerate our devotional development in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else with something to share before we bring this to a close?
I think we should close now.
Oh, Harichakra Prabhu has something to share.
Okay, just a minute.
Okay, Harichakra Prabhu, you may unmute.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandava Pranam.
Yeah,
All glories to Gurudev, God to Prabhupada. And all glories to Salika Prabhu for your always jumping in to help with this class. Thank you very much. And the little I want to say about a devotee's life, and I think in one of Shri Krishna Prabhupada's lecture, he made mention of the karma of devotees. And he says once somebody becomes a devotee and he surrenders to a guru, then he says your karma comes in stages. And there are 3 major stages of your karma. And he compared that stages with the arrow. And so Guru Maharaj was saying that when someone has arrows in the porch, the arrows in the porch can be stopped so that it will not be used. And even the arrows that are already in the bow, which has not been shot yet, they can be stopped. But the arrows that has already been shot, it cannot be stopped. It hits its target. And it says in the life of devotee, that is what happens. These different stages of your karma. The arrows in your karma that has already been shot, that one cannot be stopped. But the ones that are in the porch and the ones that are in the bow, they can be stopped. But Krishna also gives us a leeway, even though those that have been shot already, which cannot be stopped, Krishna also gives us a leeway. And I think the leeway is found in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, is it test 38? So I can look at it for me like, if I'm correct. 438, what does it say? Yata Damshi Samidogni, something like that.
Okay.
You said 438?
438.
So
yeah.
should I give you his number?
Yeah, in this
Or you
world,
can
there
show
is
it by
nothing so sublime and
No, that's not the one. What about look at either 37 or 39, one of them. It says as a blazing fire.
Yeah, it's 37.
37. Okay.
Okay, let me put it up here. It's nice. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes. Oh, Arjun, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities.
Yeah. So in this test, it's like
Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice purport, and I particularly like this purport because Srila Prabhupada uses philosophy terms, priori and posteriori. These are philosophy terms, terminologies. Perfect knowledge of self and super self and of their relationship is compared herein to fire. This fire not only burns up all reactions to impious activities, but also all reactions to pious activities, turning them to ashes. There are many stages of reaction. Reaction in the making, reaction fructifying, reaction already achieved, and a reaction a priori. But knowledge of the constitutional position of the living entity burns everything to ashes. When one is in complete knowledge, all reactions, both a priori and posteriori, are consumed. In the Vedas, Brihad Aranyanka Upanishad 4.4.22, it is stated, Ube Ubavaisha iti tarati amrita, sadhu asaduni. One overcomes both the pious and impious reactions of work. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you very much, Harishakra Prabhu. And I wanted to add to what you have just said and how it connects back to Sarva Dharma. Because Krishna says, Baunam Jammanam Ante, Yenavma properly Vasudeva Savamiti Samahatma Sudalada. The bottom line is knowing Krishna. And unless one knows Krishna, he cannot surrender to Krishna. And that is the same thing he said in the Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. When one becomes transcendentally knowledgeable, when it comes to transcendental knowledge, as a result of knowing knowledge, one engages in bhakti. And how can one engage in bhakti without surrender? So the whole purport is that one has to surrender. And the moment one surrender as a result of knowledge, when one surrender as a result of knowledge, as one surrender as a result of knowledge, naturally what then happens is what? Krishna takes control of everything, both a priori or a posteriori, as Prabhupada just posted in that place. And how does this happen? How this happens is that when a devotee comes to that level of surrender to Krishna, and I'll give a practical example. A practical example is Arjun. Due to Arjun's approach and what have you, Karna's arrow will have killed Arjun. But Krishna, although the arrow was already shot, and he was going to come to cut his head off. But Krishna plays his trick. And that's how Krishna, even that karma that is already written for a devotee, if Krishna thinks that that is a need for that devotee, Krishna will take that even karma that is already settled. He will remove it. That is his potence. That is what he means by Masucha. He will remove it. So there is no a level of karma, whether past, present, or future, whatever is being done or what is not done. Krishna has the ability, capacity to remove any form of karmic reaction. That is why devotees don't rely on them. He doesn't rely on them because he knows that the moment he surrenders to Krishna, those things are completely, as I said earlier on, under the control of Krishna himself. He said, it's under my nature. And because it's under Krishna, Krishna knows what to manipulate with it. He can turn 0 to 100 or 100 to 0. It is within his capacity. So a devotee does not worry anything about all of those past or present or future karma because he knows that Krishna is under the influence of Krishna's control. I don't know whether that helps a lot.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
In fact, I learned this from Harichakra Prabhu himself some time ago that like he was describing an arrow that has already been shot from the bow. You cannot take it back. But like Salika Prabhu, you just explaining, Krishna, if he chooses to protect his devotee, even though the arrow may be released, but he's also going to give us the armor, the shock absorbers. So even though we may be hit by the arrow, but will not have the same impact. And so that is the beauty of being a Krishna devotee, because Krishna is superior, he's supreme. He can do and undo anything and everything. So like Govinda Prabhu is saying, if we become concentrated more on the devotion part, the other things will be well taken care of by Krishna. But that does not mean we minimize them or we do not recognize their existence and relevance. But they are subordinate. They are subordinate to true spiritual life. Harichakra Prabhu, I don't know if you have something else to say, otherwise we'll bring this to a close. Well,
I think he's busy now.
Yeah. So I think, Salika Prabhu, I think we'll bring this to a close. Thank you so much for always being ready to step in. I don't know if Shimabara Prabhu is free and wants to share something. Well, so those of you celebrating Nityananda Trayodashi today, we wish you all happy, blissful Shri Nityananda Trayodashi. And may we all be blessed by the Adi Guru himself, Lord Nityananda, so that by his mercy and grace, we can be engaged in devotional service. Maybe we'll share more about Lord Nityananda tomorrow, whoever is speaking. So at this point, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to Salika Prabhu, our precious speaker, and to each and every devotee assembled here. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindhyapivacha, Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
All glories to His grace, Salika Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you.
Jai.